Let's bring in Jamie Harrison, the former DNC chair and host of the At Our Table podcast. Good to see you again, sir. So during an interview this week, you said you don't have a problem with the DSA, but what you do have a problem with is that we've got one party right now that is trying to fight back against racism. And if we tear that party apart at this point, we're going to lose because there's no other party or entity strong enough to hold that back. So do you think the rise of democratic socialism within the Big Tent could compromise the party's overall mission?
Well, Alex, there's no question that we are seeing more candidates identifying as democratic socialists or receiving support from organizations like the DSA. And you have to acknowledge it. It reflects frustration that some people have with the current status quo. But I think we have to be very careful not to confuse success in Democratic primaries with broad national public opinion. Winning a Democratic primary and winning a general election just require different coalitions. And what we have not seen yet is DSA candidates or candidates that are affiliated with DSA winning in these seats that you got to flip, right? It's one thing to win in a seat that's already blue. But winning a state or winning in a district that you got to flip, and you have to bring together a coalition of independents and progressives and moderates and all of the above, that's a very different ball game.
Yeah, it's a point that Hunter was making, as well as the one I'm about to share, which is the couple of closely watched primary races coming up, which some say they could serve as bellwethers for the future of the Democratic Party. Both the one he mentioned, Wisconsin gubernatorial race, as well as the Michigan Senate races, they include candidates who either identify with or lean towards democratic socialism versus candidates who are more establishment. So seeing as these are both swing states, how significant could these two outcomes be?
Well, they're really, really important for the Democratic Party, right? They're really important. That Senate race in Michigan is crucial for us. That's a Democratic seat. And to hold that seat in order to really have a shot at getting a Senate majority. And so that's really important. And so whomever comes out of that primary, it's going to be important for the Democrats to try to do their best to hold on to that seat. And then you talked about Wisconsin and how important that is as a presidential election state. And it's important not to have a far right wing, MAGA person in that governor's mansion. So the stakes are high. They are really, really high. And I think folks have to understand that you got to be careful when you play with fire. Sometimes you can get burned.
So according to a new Washington Post Ipsos poll, 3 in 4 Democrats say they would be open to supporting a president who identifies as a democratic socialist. On the flip side, more than half of all Americans say they would not. So what's your takeaway from this?
Well, once again, it is about the coalition. In the end of the day, I often tell people, in the jobs that I've had to be the floor director in the whip operation for House Dems when we took back the majority. And as chair of the DNC, you have to work with progressives, you have to work with moderates, you have to work with conservatives, everything under that big, broad tent. But in the end of the day, it's about bringing together a coalition that can win a general election. It is 218 votes in the House. It is 51 in the United States Senate. And those are the magic numbers, right? And so can you pull together that coalition? That coalition reflects what you see in that poll right there. With a vast majority of Americans say, that's not our cup of tea. And so as a party, we got to really figure out who we are and what we're fighting for. Some of the things that I've heard from the DSA, I don't feel comfortable with. I don't feel comfortable with the abolishment of the U.S. Senate, abolishing prisons, getting rid of the presidencies. Yes, all of those things probably need some form of reform, and that's fine. But when you think about tearing away things that are parts of the U.S. Constitution, that's a line that sometimes people can't go to. And you got to be careful because you don't want to be labeled that extreme. And that's not where the American people, the vast majority, which you saw in that poll, that's not where the vast majority of the American people are.
Yeah. So this week, the DNC panel picked South Carolina as the first primary state in the 2028 election after a month-long process. This is a decision that you have advocated for, but not all Democrats are happy about it. So why do you think this is and was the right choice?
Well, listen, we made South Carolina the first in the 2024 election. And so this is a continuation of this, because in the 2024 election, yes, we had a contest, but it wasn't competitive. This is the first time in which South Carolina will be the first in a competitive race. And what it requires is that every candidate to build a broad coalition that's needed. And it's, candidates can't just rely on appealing to one ideological faction. They have to come into South Carolina and they have to earn support from Black voters and working families and faith communities and rural communities and military families. All of those things are really, really, really important. And, when you hear this, Alex, I'm sure you hear it all the time. They say, well, the backbone of the Democratic Party are Black voters in this country. Well, isn't it time for the backbone to actually get an opportunity to be first, to get from the back of the bus to actually sitting in the bus, to drive the bus? And I think if Iowa and New Hampshire have been able to do it, then it's great now to give South Carolina and Nevada a chance to also be at the front of the bus for the Democratic Party, because that's the party of today.
Hear, hear on that. In a new op-ed, Donna Brazile, a former DNC chair like yourself, is accusing Democrats of wasting time on the wrong battle, writing, voters care about the affordability crisis, not internal politics. I mean, does she have a point? Is the discord around primary states and socialist versus establishment, is it distracting the party from the real issues at hand?
I agree with Donna 100%. I mean, in the end of the day, this is all a bunch of noise that most Americans, when I go to the barbershop, even though you're like, oh, Jamie, you still go to the barbershop? When you go to the barbershop or you go to the grocery store, people aren't saying, oh, Jamie, what is going on right now with the DSA, or what's going on with the primary states? People aren't asking about that. They're like, why are my prices so dang on high? Why, when are things going to get better? When can I find a better job, right? Those are the pocketbook issues that Democrats really need to focus on like a laser between now and November, and have real answers for the questions that people have. And so Donna's spot on. All of this other stuff is a bunch of pundit noise within the Beltway. Ken Martin isn't going anywhere. And, I put out a tweet the other day about just comparing 2018 and where we were financially to 2026. It is so similar. And guess what we did in 2018, Alex? We flipped 41 seats in the House of Representatives. Right? We took out a big loan then, and the loan had the DNC headquarters as collateral. It's about spending the money on organizing and investing and building the infrastructure. It's not about keeping the money in the bank so that, we got a lot of money in the bank. Well, no, you got to spend the money so that you can actually build the party to win the races. And Ken has won a lot of races over these last few months.
Okay. Listen, whatever your barber's doing, it looks great on you, so you wear it well. Anyway. Okay. Jamie Harrison, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Thank you, Alex.